listening to Second Wind with Joyce Buford, where women who are ready to expand their life adventure discover the tools to stop playing small and tap into the courage required to enjoy their second wind. Welcome.
Good morning, afternoon, evening, whenever you are listening to Second Wind. You know, I just appreciate so much that you are here and that you're looking forward to my guest. My promise to you, as you remember, was that I would always have the best, the most powerful, the most fantastic guests on my show. And this lady is no exception to this rule. I am absolutely thrilled to bring Rebeccah Silence to you today. Now, let me tell you a little bit about her. She's a global advocate and leading coach in the emotional healing and relationships. As a survivor of childhood trauma and abuse, and being diagnosed with stage 3 cancer, which I am assuming was later in your life, correct? Mm-hmm. Oh, correct. Yeah. Okay. She has helped countless individuals, couples, and families process even the most intense, traumatic experience and heal. Her life mission is about supporting people in moving through their healing so they can allow themselves to truly thrive. I love all that. And I could keep on reading all these wonderful things that you're doing, but welcome, Rebeccah.
Thank you so much. I am honored to be here and very much looking forward to this conversation.
Oh, good. Oh, good. Would you talk about the trauma? Was it in your younger family, in your first family, as well as you married and got into another situation?
Absolutely.
How does that happen? I mean, of course, we can't pick our parents, okay, but we can pick our husbands.
Absolutely.
Well, how's that happen?
And we can learn how to outwit, outsmart, outlast our patterns and the generational trauma that we inherit, right? So I actually would suggest that, maybe we even do pick our parents. I'm not sure. All I know is that we're born into a family of origin that is doing the best they can based on their level of awareness and tools and how they were raised. And one of the things that I truly believe is that every family has a generational healer that's born into the family. And in mine, I do believe that it was me, just in terms of being able to see things could be different. Things could be better. We could be more careful with each other and with ourselves. And why aren't we? And I think what happens is typically that generational healer in the family doubts and questions themselves because they feel alone on an island. And the vision that they have for hope and healing for the family that they love so much, regardless of trauma and abuse, if it's not reciprocated or validated, we can start to think, well, something must be wrong with me. So in my family of origin, I grew up in an alcoholic household with mental, physical, sexual, emotional trauma going on throughout the extended family system. And I think one of the things that's difficult is what we grow up in on some level, we just decide is normal. Even if we know this doesn't feel right, or this doesn't feel good, or this is scary, it just becomes our baseline, our normal, and not just what we expect, but what we resign into believing is just what's possible and meant for us. And so for me, what ended up happening was, as much as I knew I wanted things to be different for my family and for myself, I just kept playing out the patterns and fighting myself because I didn't think I deserved better or more. So fast forward, I inevitably recreate the marriage my parents had in my first marriage. And, I didn't plan on getting married at 23 years old or being pregnant at 23 years old. My oldest, who's now 18, she has a joke. I got married on Lookout Mountain in Colorado. And the first time my oldest saw where this was, we were driving past it. And she goes, "Mom, it says right on the mountain, Lookout." Told you right there, but there was no looking out because I still needed to wake up to my participation in patterns that I inherited, grew up in, and normalized. And, my first husband is one of my greatest teachers. I write a lot about that experience of being married to him and getting out of a domestic violence marriage in the book, Coming Back to Life. But after that marriage, I started to recognize, all right, I have to be the one to grow and heal and demand more of myself and for myself if I will break free and no longer be someone held hostage by my past and by my trauma.
Yeah. Are you an only child, or were there other siblings?
I have one younger sibling. Yep.
Girl?
Female? Well, I'm not interested in getting into specifics about that. My work in terms of sharing about the book is so about my experience. And since so many other people were impacted, I do prefer to just speak to my experience.
Okay. But my point here is that the abuse also went to all of the members of the family.
Of course, right? And it is systematic.
Right. Yeah. So, okay. So you're living in this family and it's not working. I mean, you realize there's something wrong with it, or it's not as you probably didn't when you moved into your second family, because you were, as you say, so conditioned by the first family. Yeah. But was it the divorce of the second family of your marriage that was that the key when you went, I got to change this? Was that the defining moment that we all have that goes, okay, I got to take on?
Well, and honestly, Joyce, what was so confronting in the moment for me where I realized I have to do better, like I have to do better. My oldest daughter was in a risky, unsafe situation because of the marriage that I had chosen. And the second I recognized she was at risk, I refused to be a bystander, to look the other way or pretend like I wasn't seeing what I was seeing. And what was very confronting later on was recognizing I hadn't been ready to leave for myself. I had been at risk for years in that relationship, but that wasn't the catalyst for me to leave. It wasn't until I recognized my child is now at risk and I'm responsible for that I made the very difficult decision to just get us out of there. And within 4 days, I literally, Joyce, had 40 women and their spouses on my doorstep, moving my daughter and I into another apartment. And in 4 hours, we were out of this house, in an apartment, unpacked everything, window treatments, new tires on my car, wall hangings up, fresh start. And, I just want to point out, I had thought I was fooling everyone in that first marriage. I thought I was the best actress. I thought no one had a clue how bad it was behind closed doors. And when I shared with my book club women friends, I have to leave, no one was surprised, and they rallied and orchestrated, the intervention of all interventions. And my daughter and I ended up, she was only 2 at the time, in a new apartment within days.
That's what I like about women and their strength to support other women. I mean, I just love the fact you said you had curtains on the walls and everything when you made that move. I mean, that is part of the support system of women.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I'm curious as to what you began your recovery, but how? What did you do? Was it through reading? Did you actually find somebody, or what was it?
Yeah. So I had already had an undergraduate degree as a music therapist and worked at the State Psychiatric Hospital, Fort Logan in Denver, Colorado. And while I had been a music therapy intern at that hospital, I realized, there's so much more to human behavior than just mental illness. We don't know how to cope, and we specifically don't know how to process our emotions. So I worked in adult psych for a while and then ended up getting a master's in counseling after I had my oldest. And I remember after leaving my first husband, being in this moment, realizing my actions are incongruent with my understanding. I have a master's degree in counseling. I'm no stranger to therapy either. My whole childhood was
Right.
one long therapy session that went nowhere. So I'm like, I understand so much, but my actions are completely out of alignment. I'm drinking too much. I have an eating disorder. I am not taking good care of myself. And while I got out of this marriage and got my daughter and I safe, I am not the mother I want to model for my oldest daughter. And so I ended up going on a date from someone I met online. It did not work out. And then this guy a few days later was like, hey, what are you doing this weekend? Do you want to go to a seminar on love? And I was like, sure.
Oh, that's a strange date.
Oh, it was so weird. So I end up going to this by donation seminar and meeting my first life coach. And after, the first seminar, I was hooked. Like, oh, we can get to the root of where behaviors come from. We can actually heal through the patterns. We don't have to just manage them. And, within 6 months, I was running that coach's company and I moved to Las Vegas to work with her and train under her. And, I continued my school counseling, started a private practice. And then along the way, I've trained with so many amazing mentors and coaches. I have multiple certifications. And now I have the practice of emotional healing that I've created, that I teach, that I also write about in Coming Back to Life, that I really think is the key. It's unrepressing our stuck emotions and healing through the stuck age we are trapped in emotionally so that we can be the adult in the room, making new choices for ourselves. Again, no longer held hostage by the past.
Right. Yeah. Now, looking at your website, oh my gosh, you offer so much. It's kind of like overwhelming because I liked all of it, and I was going, where do I start?
Yeah.
So, you have this, what was I looking at? And I thought, well, that sounds really good. This emotional survival kit.
Yeah.
I bet that goes well.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, well,
and a beginning tool for somebody. It's not too threatening, but it's good. It's promises.
It's phenomenal. So it's the fundamentals of how to stay emotionally mature, emotionally clear, and emotionally intelligent. Again, as the adult that's able to see, what is your responsibility and what's not. And I teach you how to use heartbreak, trauma, any wound to your advantage to step even more into the life you deserve. And so the emotional survival kit, Joyce, it's less than 3 hours. It's 7 20-minute lessons that pack a punch and teach you the fundamentals to be feeling fully alive, to conquer depression, anxiety, any place that you feel stuck or stressed, knowing who you are and trusting who you are above all else, regardless of circumstance.
Yeah. Yeah. Now I know you've just released your new book called Coming Back to Life, a roadmap to healing from pain to create the life you want.
Yes.
Okay. How does your book, how do you use your book? Do you use it as a instruction manual or do you use it as a discussion, look at this, look at that?
Yeah.
How do you do that?
What I wanted, my dream was, if I can use my story and my patterns and my healing journey to help connect people to what they wouldn't have even known was a pattern that they had control over, to help connect people to their story in such a way that they can relax into it, own it powerfully, and not have it run their lives or ruin their lives anymore. That's what I want to do. So the book truly is me saying, you're the healer. Let me help you connect to the inner healer, the best of you that knows what you need. But I'm going to share my experience to give you some ideas, to trigger some memories in the best way to help you get free. So my book is really a roadmap to allow people the honor and privilege of setting themselves free. And the book is also a starting point. I like to say, I think the number one objection to my brand is it almost sounds too good to be true. Like how do you get that happy when you've been that abused, that traumatized, that neglected by yourself, by other people? And I've not had a case yet that I couldn't crack. And then I'm with one person. So I can't be available to everyone privately. I do have a beautiful private practice, and I do private practice work for those that are interested. But for those that just want an introduction to me and to the possibilities that I teach, and I am not, Joyce, about positivity. I'm not. I'm not like, let's be positive. It's ironic because my blood type is B positive, but that's not what I'm about. I'm not about positivity. I'm about, in the face of anything and everything, there is still possibility. And I teach people how to access it. So the book is a beginning. And then the course is, if you want the best of what I teach without having to pay me the premium private practice rates, go for it. And couples are thriving with the course, which I find fascinating as well.
With the book? Are you talking about the book?
I'm talking about the
course?
course, but the book as well. People can read together. At the end of every chapter of the book, I have questions and processes and exercises to help people integrate as well.
Okay. But you have several courses.
I do.
So, I mean, so are you saying the one that I mentioned, the emotional survival kit, might be one where you'd start?
Absolutely. And I've got a free trigger trauma release method masterclass if people just really want a little introduction with no risk, no commitment involved beyond that. But absolutely. So I birthed Coming Back to Life and the emotional survival kit at the same time. I felt like I was having I was just downloading all of this information. And so they both came out at the same time. The combination of the emotional survival kit and Coming Back to Life, it is enough for anyone to save their own lives, reinvent themselves, start new, and have an experience of joy and freedom that they might not believe is possible.
Yeah. Yeah. You're kind of speaking my language, because I really didn't have a very emotional family, and I married somebody just like me. So I think it's really more common than not. I don't think we learn how to emotionally express ourselves.
I couldn't agree more.
That's the reason high divorce rates. I mean, people are dysfunctioning, and how does that affect us even just socially? Not talking with an intimate person, but you have to be affected even socially.
Absolutely, because we are emotionally stunted where we're emotionally stunted, and it doesn't matter who we're interacting with. And people, they get divorced, or they quit jobs, or they break up with a friend, and then they're playing out the same patterns with a different character. When I do business corporate type team training, it's really family coaching, because they're not upset with each other as a coworker. You're representing my issues with my sister. You're representing my issues with my evil stepfather. You're representing, like this person in my family, and you're representing that person in my family. And we play out the patterns until they heal, period, end of story. And I don't think you can have mental health without emotional health. And I think we have so much mindset and strategy work, which is great, but if you're not emotionally clear, it's irrelevant.
It is. Yeah. Oh, that's so funny. You said you're not really mad at her because she's doing that to you. You're doing it because your sister did that to you.
Right.
I love that.
It's the truth, Joyce.
It is. I even sometimes have traveled with people and just on a fun trip to another place. And some of that stuff gets kicked up. And I'm like, now why? I'm just going to be with these people for 2 weeks and I'm gone. But still, even minimal time, you still have those things that kick up and you go, why am I doing this?
Right.
Until
the pattern heals, until the heartbreak heals, life just, like Don Miguel Ruiz talks about in the book, The Mastery of Love, life will just keep poking its finger and digging around. And it's possible to get to the place where these seemingly impossible scars can actually form and heal over, and it doesn't hurt anymore. It really is possible.
Okay. All right. Cross your heart. You promise?
Like I said, there's not been one case I haven't been able to crack. So the trigger trauma release method that's free at RebeccahSilence.com, I teach people how to make their triggers their bitch. Instead of your triggers owning you, make them your bitch. You take the power back. You get to the point where this doesn't have a chokehold on you anymore. And then people can keep doing the same thing. It's not that we're getting other people to change, nor is that even an option. We can get to the place where we can be free and healed and solid within ourselves, regardless of how people show up. And that's where I think the miracle exists, in our ability to be that miracle we're seeking, that doesn't require the external to be different for us to be okay.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Now, earlier, I shared with you that one of the words that I'm big on, because of the Julia Cameron book that she did, It's Never Too Late to Begin Again. She has I don't know if you've looked at that book, but she has a section in the back of it where you have different emotional, expressing emotions in there, and she has exercises. It's really cool.
Okay.
And so I noticed you noticed that my big word this year is joy.
Yes.
So you put that, thought it was very interesting, because you do know that we sort of share ideas and plan this. We planned this talk out today in a way. So you say I could substitute the word joy in everything that we do to help us emotionally heal, because we want to live in joy, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. So one of the things that I teach is that there are really only 5 human emotions to concern ourselves with. I think in Brene Brown's Atlas of the Heart, she talks about 80 plus. I make it really simple in the practice of emotional healing. So the 5 emotions that I actually believe we are born with as humans, that aren't our fault, that aren't going anywhere, no matter how hard we try to resist or reject them: anger, fear, grief, joy, and excitement. These are the 5 human emotions that are naturally occurring. And until and unless we have a healthy relationship with all 5, joy can't be our default emotion. So everything else is learned. I learned to be jealous. I learned I could be abandoned. I learned I could be abused. It doesn't mean it's not real, but that's a feeling about the external and circumstance versus a naturally occurring human emotion. So what I want is for joy to be the rule we live by. And it is the rule I live by. It genuinely is. And my definition of happiness is a healthy relationship with anger, fear, grief, joy, and excitement. If I've got issues with any of them, I can't really be joyful. I can't really be happy.
All right. Describe for me how you experience and know you're in joy.
I feel like I am plugged in to source, to the divine, to what I call God. I feel so light. I feel so free. I know who I am. I know what to say. I know what to do. I'm not inhibited in any way, shape, or form. I am unleashed as the truth of who I am.
Is there a physical emotion in your body?
For me, that physical emotion is joy that I feel plugged into, and it lights me up like a Christmas tree. And I have learned that I can be joyful even in scenarios and situations that aren't my preference. I have learned that I can be the best of me. And to me, I learned this with my current coach. I can have certainty when I have chosen to be my best and make the best of whatever moment I find myself in.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think sometimes it's interesting when I've spoken to people about the joy thing. When do you experience joy? And how does that make you feel? And it's almost like you do the work. There is work that you do, but we don't think it's work because it's so much fun and we're having such a good time that it's just part of the trip to get to joy. It's part of joy. And so when you get there, and I have a very present memory of getting there for me on a trip that I took. And it was like all of a sudden I was standing in my hotel room and my body was just so filled with joy because I had done my work. I'd gotten there and I was so happy. Don't know how to explain it other
I
than that.
completely understand. I think when we can rise above circumstance as the best of who we can be, and we can be proud of who we are, and we
Yes.
can be aware of the power and the courage it took to choose who we were going to be in the moment. It is the most gorgeous, beautiful experience. And I just want to say, as you were talking, I just want to point out to this gorgeous audience, your environment is a huge part of setting yourself up to be able to experience joy. My home is sacred space. And I used to be a hoarder. I was a couch surfer for a long time. You know, I just, at this point, I only want in my space, literally, metaphorically, energetically, what feels high vibration and grounding to me and creates an environment that is so sacred that it basically guarantees a joyful experience. I think so many people wait to get their environment right, or they don't recognize the environment. And the environment can literally be the space you're in, but it could also be relationship dynamics, right? So just don't underestimate how important and powerful your ability to reinvent your environment is as well on your path to joy.
Yeah. Do you, in your home, because I assume you've done your work, in your home, do you have that space that you can sit down in and you just look around the room and you just say, I love this room. It's so peaceful. It's so quiet. I just love it.
Every room in my house.
Well, I can't say that. There's some rooms that need some work.
Okay.
But you know I can do it because I've done it.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
It's still, you need that inner push.
Yes.
To get you to do what you know you need to do.
Absolutely. And I've just taken it one room at a time. It certainly wasn't an overnight situation. My sister calls my house a museum. She's like, Rebeccah, this is like a museum in here. You know, I'm just very much aware that my sacred space, plus for me, I live here, I work here, like my house is my space. I really, you know, I'll go out occasionally, but I'm mostly here. So having that environment set up is so important.
Yes. Yeah. Now, how important do you think, and I think we've kind of gone over this, but that the clutter that we have as a deterror in our happiness? Why is it people collect the clutter?
Well, we're used to suffocating emotionally. We're used to treading water and just hoping we can keep breathing, right? And so we unconsciously, so here's how I think it works. We can't set our lives up to support our core values, and we can't set up the environment that would take the best care of us without awareness and doing the work like you're talking about. If we don't have awareness and do the work, we end up basically setting up what we grew up in over and over and over again. And we don't let ourselves break through that self-inflicted glass ceiling of possibility. And we just keep suffocating ourselves. Essentially, I think it's about, we parent ourselves the way we were parented. We set our lives up the way our parents set our childhood environment up, until and unless we say, wait a minute, we can knock this in a new direction, set something new in motion, and create what we've never seen before. I think for most people, life is just childhood on repeat in different costumes with different characters. And it is possible for childhood to be one thing that we learn how to use to our advantage, and our adult life can look completely different. My adult life, my second marriage, the experience I'm having raising even my second daughter as opposed to my first. I have an 8-year-old and I have an 18-year-old. It's night and day. It is nothing like what I saw. And then I always have to be aware that that doesn't mean there won't still be triggers or, you know, fear that takes over. I just have the tools to move through it so quick. And I have a commitment to the life I want and to being who I choose to be, regardless of all of what I could use to justify playing out life the way it was.
Okay. I like that. Yeah. I do. So what's the most exciting thing about your life right now? Other than you just told me you're in a great marriage and you have a young daughter and a happy home and
Yeah. I would say the greatest joy of my life is the level of emotional intimacy that I share with myself and others every day. And I have accomplished a lot, and I'm so grateful for that. But my greatest dream come true accomplishment is the family environment I have created with my second husband. We are so happy, and we both became the best of ourselves in the face of this relationship. We weren't needing the other person to save us from ourselves or our past.
Yes.
We decided, I love the Jim Rohn quote. I used to say, I'll take care of you if you take care of me. Now I say, I'll take care of me for you if you'll take care of you for me. And, this family that I've built, I'm so proud of, and the relationships that I have and the ability to be intimate and emotionally connect on the deepest levels to the people that I'm honored to connect with on a daily basis. That is my greatest joy.
Very good. Yes. I don't know anybody that wouldn't want that.
Yeah,
honestly.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So as we're kind of coming down to the end of our time, which I do not like, because I think we could probably have another hour together.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But you're where can people find your book? Because I think that's a wonderful tool. And then I want you to tell them about how to get your website.
Absolutely.
So that, or to listen to you on the podcast. You have a podcast.
I do. I have a few different shows. So, all right, with Coming Back to Life, the best way to order it is just go to RebeccahSilence.com, click on Coming Back to Life, and you can order it anywhere. You can go to Amazon, Target, Barnes & Noble. You can order this book anywhere books are sold. You can also get the audio. I'll just show you what it looks like. This is Coming Back to Life, and you can get it anywhere books are sold, but you can also get it directly from RebeccahSilence.com.
Your website.
The website, RebeccahSilence.com, I spell Rebeccah with an H. So it's RebeccahSilence.com. And from the website, you can get access to the emotional survival kit that we talked about. Also, there are tons of free resources. And then the other place I really want to direct people is to my YouTube channel. The Rebeccah Silence YouTube channel, for 12 years, I've had podcasts, radio shows, TV interviews. That YouTube channel, any topic you could imagine, you can search, and I'm sure I've talked about it. And so you can definitely visit the Rebeccah Silence website and the Rebeccah Silence YouTube channel. Find me on Instagram. And if you ever want to work with me privately, you can apply at RebeccahSilence.com for that as well.
Okay. The YouTube, how does that differ what you have on YouTube? You have all the programs that you've done on YouTube?
Correct.
I've done it in your directory?
Yeah. Well, we have the channel organized in different categories. So I've done the Tougher Together Breakthrough podcast. I have a show called The Healing is Possible Experience. And then I've been on many TV shows as a regular, and I'm interviewed quite a bit. So all of the collection, the DJ, I do a radio show in New York, and he says, for all of your Rebeccah Silence needs, just go to the Rebeccah Silence YouTube channel. I do a show with him in New York every single week as well. So we just have a great time talking about possibility and talking about how in every scenario, there is nothing outside of us more powerful than we are. Period.
Right. Do you ever take a sample couple and work on those? Have you ever done that?
Oh, I do 2-day couple intensives and 2-day family intensives to help people completely reinvent. And I have plenty of free public coaching sessions with me, with client volunteers that people can also watch, so that you can not only see their healing and transformation, but the questions I ask the volunteer, you can pretend like I'm asking you.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like we have to do, my listening audience and I have to do a lot of research.
Have fun. I love to say, Joyce, the darkness is real, but so is the light. We have fun.
Yeah.
While we deal with all of the darkest, heaviest stuff.
I know. Oh, what a joy you've been this afternoon.
Thank
Joy,
you.
joy.
Joy.
I'm laughing here.
I love it.
So anyway, I just have thoroughly enjoyed your time with us today. Maybe we'll need to come back together.
I would be honored. I love it. And in your second wind, let me just say this. We all have a second wind in us. And even if you've ever experienced a second wind, I'm sure another one's coming. You know, the year I put together Coming Back to Life and the Emotional Survival Kit, all of this content coming through me, it's the result of a second wind. We didn't talk about at a 5% chance to live after a cancer diagnosis. And I realized I am not taking advantage of the time I have left. I've got a second wind. Let's go.
Yeah.
Thank you for the work you do.
Oh, thank you. Do you think the cancer was part of the trauma of your body?
So, you know what's so fascinating? I had the thought, oh, this feels so much like my childhood abuse. I'm alone. It hurts. I'm dying. I think I'm going to die. You know, nobody else understands. I don't know how long it's going to last. And I remember thinking, oh, is this happening so that I'll heal another layer of my childhood trauma? And then I realized who I was as a little girl that survived that trauma is who I need to connect to and tap into being. This isn't about, I still haven't healed. This is about how capable and resilient and strong I am. And I have to connect to that part of me, or there will not be the rest of my life. So it ended up being a spiritual awakening that, you know, allowed me to not only discover who I truly am, but to decide who I want to be for the rest of my life and how I want to live. And I don't think we need a crisis or a breakdown to decide who we want to be and how we want to live. A lot of people wait for a crisis or a breakdown. And I'm just here to say, don't wait for things to get worse. Start from where you are. And, you know, just know, again, there's nothing more powerful than you. And you can be and do and have and feel however you want in this lifetime.
I think I so agree. But I think I went through the trauma of cancer as well after my divorce. And I think it's that trauma, it's that story or the journey of living with all the trauma on you does wicked things to the body. So that when it does rebel and it goes, okay, but you got to get rid of my cancer. And although I was never, it sounds as bad, as serious as your cancer was, it was in the breast, and I just never believed that it was really real because it was so tiny. I was really fortunate, really, really, really fortunate. And so it was just so tiny, and I just never thought of it as being serious.
Well, and I think, I mean, oh my gosh, we could just talk for hours and hours, but what I want to say about what you're saying is I do a lot of writing. There's a whole chapter in Coming Back to Life about the body and my relationship with my body during cancer transformed to the level that I needed it to for me to actually be able to recognize, compared to the cancer that is tiny in reality, my spirit, my essence, my drive, my commitment to life is so much bigger. And I just want to say, I don't believe you dismissed the severity. You, on some level, knew this doesn't have to take me out of possibility altogether. And I just think that's so important. And yes, trauma will get reactivated. Patterns will repeat until they're healed. So if we can just decide it's safe to find our weak spots, for lack of a better word, so we can get through the emotional toxicity that's trapped in ourselves, clear our body. From there, now I can connect to my body and it can guide me.
Yeah.
When I'm all clogged up and funky emotionally, good luck being able to hear your own voice or your own inner guidance.
I agree. You just have so much energy. I wish my listening audience could see Rebeccah. She's like on fire. Her eyes are flashing and she's smiling all the time and her hands are going like crazy. So anyway, she's a delight to be with.
Thank you. I'm fully alive, Joyce, and I want that for all of you as well.
Absolutely. So I'm going to say goodbye to my guests, my listeners now, and then we'll chat more. But wow, has this been delivered to you, this great show today? Did you get all of what Rebeccah was sharing with us? The intensity of it, the completeness of it, the professionalism of it, and the need for it. We're all struggling at some level because of the day and time we listen to. Our TV is full of all of the stress and dysfunction. And so it's time that we put ourselves first. And she has given us the tools to do that. Now, you know, one thing I always ask you, and I think this is appropriate. I need you to share this podcast. I need you to let other people know that there are Rebeccah Silence people out there and how important she is in her mission in her life to share with others. So I encourage you, share the podcast. Share the podcast. Make it one of the things that you do today or whenever you're listening to this. Okay? So I look forward that you're going to be here next week because we will be studying or learning more about the success of being joyful and having a full life. So thank you for being here. Always a treat to have you here. Thank you. See you next week.
Joyce Buford returns next week at the same time for another edition of Second Wind. Through the Joyce Buford Empowerment System, women are receiving the support they need through their transitions and are able to reclaim their true purpose with confidence. They receive the tools they need to map out new lives. You can find out more about her coaching services at joycebufordempowers.com.